I have some out-of-this-world news to share with you, and it's about Nina Turner and her race for the House of Representatives. So there's a new poll that just came out. Take a look at this. New Ohio 11th District poll. Nina Turner is at 50%, leaving everybody else in the dust, obliterating everybody in sight. We have Brown at 15%, Johnson at 4%, Smith at 3%, Barnes at 2%. Now, here's the only asterisk. This is from Tulchin Research. I've never heard of that polling company. And so that makes me a little skeptical about how accurate this is. It definitely seems like it's almost absurd for it to be this big of a lead. So I would be a little bit cautious since I've never heard of the polling outlet. And they say that, you know, it's the margin of error is plus or minus 4 percentage points, but I'm going to go ahead and say it's more than that. But I mean, here's the main point, man. Even if you give her like what? Let's subtract 20% from her. She's still at 30%. Like, she has such a commanding lead. Let's do the math, even though I'm terrible at math. So the nearest competitor is at 15. 25, 35, 45, and then 50. So 35. She's 35 points up. Just take 10 away from her. She's 25 points up. I mean, this is honestly Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan stuff here. I mean, this is like, I'm going to destroy the field type stuff. Now, again, the caution is this. You got to run through the tape. You got to run through the tape. Like, you can't take anything for granted. It's not over till it's over. And the mindset that works in a scenario like this is, okay, so you have 50% in the polls. Let's see if you can get to 65. Let's see if you can increase this lead. Just bury everybody. Just bury everybody. Tiger talks about this all the time. If he's 10 strokes up, he wants to be 12. And he's won majors by that, you know, gigantic margins like that. So that's the mindset that you have to take into this. But I will say, this is a refreshing thing to see. And the reason it's refreshing is that sometimes, if you're on the left, you start to think, wait a second, are we the insane ones? Are we the crazy ones? Why does nothing ever seem to go our way, ever? And what this is a reminder that it is definitely possible for somebody on the left to run a really good campaign, to win, and then also to, as long as you maintain your connection to the grassroots, to not sell out, remain aggressive, and do proper strategy and eventually win on policies. So in other words, I know that there were a lot of people out there who were thinking, the left is never going to win anything ever again. Like, even eking out a left-wing victory over the corporate Democrats, people were probably thinking, is that even possible anymore? Okay, not only is it possible, but it's possible to have crushing leads. So if it's possible for somebody on the left to win like this, to win going away, then it's possible at any level. It's possible in the House of Representatives. It's possible in the Senate. It's possible for the presidency. Now, again, it's harder once you get into a position of power because you have every single negative influence on you is put into overdrive. You know, and this is what we've seen with a lot of the Justice Democrats is they're not holding true to their original mission because now they think, I'll play the inside-outside game a little bit and like, oh, if I just go along to get along a little bit, maybe I'll get more victories that way. It's not going to work. So effectively, DC has rotted their brains and gotten them to abandon the original strategy. So it's harder once you're there because you have all these negative influences. But that would go for anybody. That would go if it was the Justice Democrats, or even if in some scenario we somehow get Greens elected all over the place or People's Party people elected all over the place. Once you get into that swamp, the swamp, unfortunately, changes most people unless you have a real firm grasp on what's going on and you stick to your principles ruthlessly. But the point is If it's possible for us to win by large margins and lead by large margins, then it's also possible for us to eventually get victories in the realm of policy and eventually do the right strategy and actually change stuff for the better. I think that this is a shot of adrenaline that the left needed, to be reminded that, hey man, this stuff is possible. Anything's possible. It's a point I've made a number of times in regards to FDR. People act like every single presidential election in today's day and age is going to be close, it's going to be split. You know, whoever wins ends up just eking out a victory because the country's so divided along partisan lines. People forget that FDR won 4 times. 4 times. He won so many times, the Republicans came up with term limits, and they also thought, like, we're never going to win another presidential race ever. These guys are too good. So that's possible. It's also possible the crushing margins that, like, Reagan won by, or Bill Clinton even won by some preposterous margins. That stuff is possible. So we have to stop aiming low, is the point. Like, you should be aiming not just to win if you're on the left, but win by crushing margins. And you should be aiming not just for the incremental minor change when you're there. You should really shoot for the stars. It's like the old saying goes, which I'm going to butcher, but it's like, if you shoot for the stars, you might reach the moon. Same thing goes for policy. You should shoot for the most ambitious policy possible, and then you might get a really good policy that's not the most ambitious policy possible. So this just makes me happy when I see this. It reminds me and reminds us that winning is possible. And let's hope not only that Nina wins, but she also is able to effectively fight off that Washington, D.C. brain rot, which takes so many well-meaning lefties and renders them toothless and weak. And I mean those words, too, by the way. I don't think that they're corrupt, the left flank. I think they're toothless and weak. And so I hope Nina does not ever become toothless or weak. I hope she stays true to her principles and can lead a really feckless and nebbish Justice Democrats group and coalition. So anyway, let's see it, Nina. Let's see it, Nina. Win by double digits. Make my day, and then let's start changing this country for the better.